Money. Today we're going to look into essentially some business assets that you always want to try to find. I haven't looked at this beforehand, so we're just going to run right through it. Hopefully, this will be a quick video. If not, I'll probably edit a little bit. But I just want to give you guys some tips on what to look for when you're buying a business to see how valuable it actually is. So let's just go ahead and get started. All right, so to start off with, we're going to filter these businesses so we don't have to look through almost 6,000 of these businesses. So today, I'm going to keep all of the businesses available, but the only thing I want to do is make it where we have some authority score. Doing this basically helps you to know that the businesses are going to have some traffic. All right, and I want to lower the amount in terms of price range to about $10,000. All right, so we also want to make it where there's at least $100 of profit, and I'm just going to say about 2,000 people per month users. All right, so this is going to leave us with about 26 businesses. So let's just look at this first business here called Boxing Gloves Review. Currently, it's an auction. Currently, it's at about $6,700 with a $1 reserve, which means that the highest bidder wins. So that's excellent. So we see that there's already 47 bids, so there's some action there. It's making about $364 every month. That's, let's say, roughly about $4,500 a month, probably a little bit less than that, just doing head math. So going through this, the first thing I want to do is I'm going to take a look at what the estimated amount of traffic is. So it says about 8,000, right? But let's see what it is when we look at the analytics. So it's actually anywhere on the low end for them last year. It's about 6,400 up to about 12, actually, excuse me, 8,000, 4,000 to 8,000 for unique visits, right? I usually only count unique visits primarily because essentially unique visits mean that we're being exposed to new people. You can look at page views as well. But the difference between unique visits and page views is that somebody came back to the site, right? Now, one of the things that really draws my attention is going to be organic search, right? That means that people are searching for keywords, and direct traffic, which means that either somebody is essentially typing in your name in Google or they're clicking on an ad to get to your website. All right, so this has 94% search traffic, which is good. That means that a lot of the work is already done. You're not really going to have to go out and try to find new people. And it says that there's about 80 posts on this site, so it's not a big, hefty site, not a lot of work to do when you get the site, as opposed to like going through thousands and thousands of posts. So now, just basing, I mean, most of you guys already know this if you've seen the last Flippa business breakdown, which I will link in the description. But ultimately, this is going to be key, right? Is the authority score is above the 20 that we gave it, so 27. It's ranking for some pretty good keywords: best boxing gloves, best boxing headgear, so on and so forth. So now, what I would like to see, if I was looking for assets to buy from a business, and with a business like this, it's expected because this is you can just tell based on the domain that this is essentially a small niche site, right? It only has 80 posts, but what I would typically be looking for is some form of assets outside of just the content. So one of the assets that I look at is search traffic, right? So is it getting a valuable amount of search traffic? This definitely is, especially for an affiliate site. This is an amazing affiliate site. It's making decent money, but really what I would say that I would be looking for in terms of growth are a couple of things. So this site doesn't have it. So let's see if I can find a site that will show it to you. Um, let's look at, all right, let's look at this one and see if we can find it. So this is a Mexican site. That's what MX stand for, which means that you would have to think about your hosting account, making sure that you can host a Mexican site on your server. It means that you may end up having to either get a new server that will allow you to host it, or um, figure out a secondary way to do it, or just not move forward with the site. So with this site, um, it's got decent income. The income recently fell. Oops, recently fell. That's not really what we're here for. Let's look down here. Okay, so as you can see, this has a lot of assets. So the number one asset, in my opinion, just based on what I understand about um, online business or business in general, I tend to think old school, right? So what I mean by that is you're not in business just because you're making money. You have an income source if you make money. Your business is the amount of people that you can contact, right? If you can get people to come back to your site, then you have a business, right? Your email list is your business. Your social media accounts, as long as you have a decent following, is your business, right? You have to make sure that people are engaged and coming back to your site for either buying or reading content, so on and so forth. Another thing that really stands out to me is you have supplier contracts, right? Now, these contracts might have to be renegotiated, but if you can renegotiate these contracts successfully, that means that you're essentially locking in a price, right? For the supplies that you're going to be selling. I also like the fact that this is trademarked, right? There's trademarks and patents available. I would find out more about these patents and trademarks, make sure that you understand exactly what they are. If you don't, talk to a lawyer. I would say the easiest way to do that is to think about signing up with something like LegalZoom or something like that. They're not LegalZoom. I forgot what prepaid legal, whatever they call it these days, but some form of a low cost legal advice, legal counsel, so that you can understand exactly what you're getting into. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't want to get into this part of it here. Um, so great. So now let's look at this. So we have social media followers. We have 10,000 on Facebook, almost 11,000 on Instagram, 400 on Pinterest. TikTok is negligible. 4,700 email subscribers. So most of these are probably not going to be engaged. But one thing I would always say to do is check on these accounts. So let's just check Instagram really quickly. Um, okay, so this Instagram account has 10,000 people on it, but only 5 people are hearting and 1 comment, right? 7 and 3, 12 and 3. So what that means is this most likely, even though they have a large amount of followers, they're not really that engaged. They're not really that interested in the content that they produce. Most likely, what this also means is that it's very easy for someone who understands social media to actually improve this content, right? To make it where this is a brand that excites people. But as you can see, the engagement for this brand is not very high. So if you don't understand social media and how to drive engagement, I can tell you this right now, just based on what I see. Whoever it is that made this social media understands the look and like the design of it, but they don't necessarily understand how to create engagement. The engagement with this would never work because it's all about sales. What is here for the customer? You got what, one, two, three, maybe four, five, and I had to scroll most of the way down the page. This is not going to keep people's attention because there's nothing in there for them. This is all for you to make sales. So if I was going to buy this site, that'd be the first thing I'd say is like, hey, let's re-engage these people by giving them some quality content that actually gives them something of value to consider, to think about, that maybe they didn't know ahead of time, right? Because this is decent. This is actually really really good content in terms of, I can't read Spanish, but this is really good content in terms of the quality of the content. But they just need a lot more of it, right? If they can create a lot more of it, then that would be good for them. So now we looked at that. I would say look through all of these, right? Because sometimes what you'll see is that they post these, but there's no pages anymore. This page is accurate, right? People are still following this page. Okay, here's another thing. Only 3 shares, right? But they're using the exact same content on Instagram and Pinterest. So, or not Pinterest, Instagram and Facebook. So that's another valuable thing to know. You can, and Pinterest. So they're not actually creating new content. They're creating one form of content and leaving it alone. And then TikTok doesn't even, the TikTok doesn't exist, which is okay because there's only 20. What I would say to do with this business, because this is an extremely valuable business, just based on what I can tell. Um, the asking price is, if you could honestly understand how to do better with the social media, I would say this is a great business to consider, if they have some search volume, right? So let's check that out. So search volume is kind of low. They do have some brand value there, with the 1,000 per month people searching them, or just typing in the name. Branded paid searches are even 100, so that's really really good, right? 100 people per month are searching for your brand name and clicking on the paid ad. Um, but the main thing that I can tell that they were doing that stopped, just based on the drop in sales and the drop in traffic, is the social media dried up, right? People stopped really worrying about them. Maybe they stopped advertising. To find that out, I would say read through the about the business section. But overall, this would be a good asset for someone to buy who understands social media marketing. All right. And even with that, right, let's say that you don't have a good idea for how you can grow this business, with this brand. You can use the suppliers and the email list and social media following to then build your own side brand, if it made sense for you. Ultimately, I'm not telling you to do that. I'm saying that it's something that, if it was me and if I had some partnerships, that might be something to consider. If this was just me by myself for the first business, I wouldn't do that at all. All right. Um, let's see if we can find a content business that will kind of give you an idea of what else to look for content. Okay, I've never seen this one, so let's take a look at this. Top 10 best. Usually I would never go for a domain name like this, top 10 best, because I mean it's kind of keeping you in a very very pigeonholed lane, right? Uh, let's see. Okay, so this does not really make very much money. It's very inconsistent, obviously, and supposedly they've got a lot of traffic, but it doesn't seem to correlate with the money. So I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that this does not have really much assets to come with it. Let's try one more. You know what? Let's try this one. Regal Tribune. All right, so they got a $5,000 reserve. The buy it now is 9,800. Says that it's making about $350 a month. Now, see, this is what I would be expecting to see, is about 20 to 30,000 people at least to make this kind of money. they're also in Google. They're Google News approved, right? So the reason why that I consider that an asset is because if you were to write, let's say, a buyer's guide for something, this is going to immediately get traffic, like within the next 24 to 48 hours, because it has a better chance of ranking due to it being considered news with Google. So what that means, uh, so let's see. So let's actually look up Regal Tribune, right? So we'll go to Google with that. And we're just going to click news. And you see how Regal Tribune has news. So what that means is if let's see. Other One, season 3. Let's see. Other One. All right. So what that means is if there was a published thing, right? You immediately get on this top portion because it is considered news, right? So anything that you can do. Oh, okay. Let's look at this. Since Diablo 2 is in the news. Okay. So this is the news, right? So what that means is somebody who buys Regal Tribune and writes something about Diablo 4 or a Diablo 4 review, or any other type of review like that, is going to be within this coverage window. Now, they may not be in the top 3 right here. That's something to try to understand how to get there. But the fact that you would be considered news helps you to rank much better for whatever you choose to write. Now, this market may or may not be as newsworthy because, well, it's evergreen entertainment news. So it's talking about shows and stuff like that. They've got good revenue from AdSense. They've got a really, really, really strong traffic profile. A lot of search engine, a lot of direct, a couple of referral. They don't have social media following, so that's a great opportunity there. And all of their traffic, except for one country, is English speaking only. So this would be a great, great opportunity for someone who was really interested in keeping up with entertainment news. Uh, and you see, it's kind of random stuff that they've been writing. So there's nothing really here that would stand out to me and be like, hey, this is a great keyword to rank for. But because it's a news site, you can essentially have a better chance of ranking for harder keywords for short periods of time, and then using that traffic to improve your overall income from the business. So that would be something to think about if you understand how that works. So ultimately, the key to this, to understanding this, is number one, how can I get in contact with my customers, right, or with the readers or whoever it is. So if there's an email list, that's a very, very valuable asset. Um, if they are on Google News, if they have a brandable traffic, meaning people are just going and typing, so direct traffic or branded paid search. If they have trademarks, if they have supplier contracts, so on and so forth, right? Those are the things that I would look for. Also, another very, very key thing to think about is when you acquire one of these businesses, something this low would not be able to be considered typically. But once you're getting up in price, thinking about using these acquisitions to hire people, right? Because a lot of times these people will have content writers, they'll have a paid ad person, they might have both. It just depends on what your budget is. So looking at what assets come with the business is going to be vital, because the business itself, right? Like just this website itself has value because it produces income. But how do you plan to grow the income? Could you improve the income by doing something really, really simple and easy? That's really what we're looking to do. All right. So that's all for this video today. Hopefully you gained some value out of this. If you have any questions or anything, make sure you leave a comment below, and I'll see you on the next one.